Hello everyone, welcome to my simple zoology class. In today's video, I'll be dealing with the topic pituitary gland. Okay, so pituitary gland is also considered to be what master's gland, correct? Now, this particular pituitary gland, on the basis of the development, what is the origin of it? That is the important question that has been definitely asked. So what is the origin of this pituitary gland? It is, if you can see over here, it is ectodermal in origin. Questions on the origin will be definitely asked, so ensure that you remember very well. Okay, so on the basis of development, pituitary gland is completely what of origin? Ectodermal in origin. Now, where is it situated? It is situated in the sella turcica of the sphenoid bone. Now, this sphenoid bone is a part of our cranial bone. Okay, we have different categories of cranial bone, correct? So, like for example, temporal bone, occipital bone, parietal bone, frontal bone, ethmoid bone, and there is another one that is called as sphenoid bone. Over there is this particular structure called as sella turcica. Now the sphenoid bone is exactly in the center of our cranial bone. So there you can see our pituitary gland to be located. Then next one, this particular pituitary gland, this whole thing is our pituitary gland. This pituitary gland is attached to the hypothalamus with the help of a stalk, and the name of the stalk is infundibulum. Okay, then this pituitary gland anatomically is divided into basically two categories. One is anterior pituitary gland, the other one is the posterior pituitary gland. Okay, if you can see over here, I've mentioned the other alternate names also, because not necessary they'll come directly with the common names. They can even use the other alternate names which has been given for it. Okay, so the first one is anterior pituitary gland or anterior lobe, also known as pars distalis, also known as adenohypophysis. Similarly, there is another one that is called as middle pituitary. This is a part of our anterior pituitary gland, which is also called as pars intermedia. Then coming to the third one is posterior lobe, which is also called as pars nervosa, also known as neurohypophysis. Now, if you have to tell what does adenohypophysis consists of, adenohypophysis consists of anterior lobe, also the middle lobe. Okay. Then what are the hormones which is being secreted by these respective categories of the pituitary gland? Starting from the anterior lobe, that is our adenohypophysis, also known as pars distalis, we have different categories of hormones. I've made a short form so that you can remember very well. That is flat PG. You can remember very simple way. Okay, F, FSH, LH, ACTH, TSH, prolactin, growth hormone or somatotrophic hormone. Flat PG, if you remember, you'll remember these are the hormones that come under our anterior lobe, which is also known as adenohypophysis. Similarly, under the posterior lobe, that is our neurohypophysis, also known as pars nervosa, we have just two categories, that is ADH, also known as antidiuretic hormone, and the other one is vasopressin. And the second category is oxytocin, also known as synthetic pitocin or pitocin, anything is fine. Now, if you can see over here the diagram of the anatomy of the pituitary gland, you can see under the anterior portion. Okay, for example, first let us see, this is our pituitary gland. It is attached to the hypothalamus with the help of a stalk, which we called as what? Infundibulum. Correct. Under the anterior pituitary, we have three categories, that is pars distalis, that is our anterior lobe itself, pars intermedia, that is our middle lobe, then pars tubularis. This is also another structure which is present in the anterior pituitary, but as of now the function of this is still unknown. Okay, then the either side you can see is the pituitary posterior one. Okay, then what are the actual functions of these hormones which is secreted by the anterior gland? That I'll be explaining one by one. We'll go in detail. Okay, starting from the first one, growth hormone. Now that means the growth hormone is going to show the effect on the growth. For example, for the elongation of the bones, it is going to even help in the stimulation of growth of muscles and cartilage. Then it is also going to show effect on metabolism, like for example it is going to increase lipolysis, that means breakdown of the lipid. How it is going to influence, I mean under the influence of the growth hormone, fat is used for energy in preference to which one? Carbohydrates and proteins. I'll repeat the statement once again. It is going to increase lipolysis. Under the influence of the growth hormone, fat is used for energy in preference to carbohydrate and protein. Apart from that, growth hormone decreases the uptake of the glucose. So hence you can also call it as what? Diabetogenic hormone. Then the third one is protein synthesis. That means growth hormone is going to increase the amino acid uptake by the cells of our liver, because we know from there itself the uptake of the amino acid is being taken place. So from the liver as well as from the muscles. So that's how you can expect for the protein synthesis to take place. Now these points in the form of statements they'll ask. So make sure that you remember whatever points I've mentioned in these entire video will be of great help. So make sure you make a note of each and every point. Then coming to the diseases, if at all there is less secretion, so hence we call it as what? Hyposecretion. Due to deficiency of this growth hormone in childhood or adolescence, dwarfism condition will be seen. Okay. Similarly, if there is hypersecretion, that means excess secretion, when it comes to childhood, gigantism will be seen. That means the person will be very long and the height of the person will be keeping on increasing very much. Then, if at all there is hypersecretion when it comes to adulthood stage, then the condition will be called as what? Acromegaly. Childhood, adulthood. So questions like this separately they'll ask. So that is why I've mentioned within the bracket so that you'll remember and make a note of it. Okay. Then what happens in this acromegaly? Uh, Basically they'll have enlargement in the bones of those face, or vertebral column will be enlarged, or forelimbs will be enlarged. So if at all it is not checked properly, premature death will be seen. Okay. Then the second one is which one? TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. The name itself is making us understand it is going to stimulate our thyroid gland to secrete the thyroxine hormone. Then there is then a third category, that is prolactin, luteotrophic, lactogenic, mammotrophic hormone. That means something related to prolactin, correct? So this prolactin is responsible for the milk production. So we finished with the prolactin. Now we'll be continuing with the next hormone that is secreted by the anterior pituitary, that is called as ACTH. ACTH is also known as adrenocorticotrophic hormone, or you can also call it as corticotropine. Okay, so what does it do? It makes sure that it is going to accelerate the adrenal cortex. Now our adrenal gland, or also known as suprarenal gland, is divided into, when you take a histological section, that is tissue section of the adrenal gland, you come across cortex region and medulla region. Now this ACTH is making sure or dominating on the cortex part of the adrenal gland to secrete a hormone mainly from the glucocorticoid. When I'll be explaining about the adrenal gland, you will come across the different categories. Then coming to the next hormone is FSH, that is follicle stimulating hormone. This particular hormone is secreted both in the case of males and females. In the case of males, what is it happening is that it stimulates the spermatogenesis, okay, and also for the normal functioning of the seminiferous tubule. And when it comes to female, oogenesis, it stimulates oogenesis and also in the development of our Graafian follicle. Okay, now one more important point is that, in the form of note I've mentioned over here, is that estrogen hormone that is secreted by this Graafian follicle is also affected with the help of this follicle stimulating hormone itself. I'll repeat, this is very important to remember. Estrogen hormone, which is secreted by the Graafian follicle, is also affected by the follicle stimulating hormone itself. Coming to the last hormone which is secreted by the anterior gland is luteinizing hormone, which you also call it as interstitial cell stimulating hormone, that is ICSH, interstitial cell stimulating hormone. Now what does this do? In case of females, it is going to stimulate ovulation, okay, because of which corpus luteum will be formed. And also hormone progesterone, which is secreted by the corpus luteum itself, which is that hormone which is secreted by corpus luteum, that is the progesterone. This hormone progesterone, which is secreted by the corpus luteum, is stimulated by our very own luteinizing hormone. Okay, when it comes to men, in case of males, what happens? Luteinizing hormone, as I already said, is also called as interstitial cell stimulating hormone. They are going to affect the Leydig cells, also known as interstitial cells of the testes. Okay, why do they affect them? In order to stimulate for the secretion of the male hormone, and the male hormone is testosterone. Okay, please remember, estrogen is secreted by Graafian follicle, stimulated by follicle stimulating hormone. Similarly, progesterone secreted by corpus luteum is stimulated by the luteinizing hormone. Questions on these will definitely come. Do not get confused. Okay, I hope you have liked my video. If you have liked my video, like, share and subscribe. Thank you.